the 10 most dangerous motorcycles that are collapsing. They once ruled the road, loud, fast, untouchable. But today, these legendary machines are falling apart, both in the showroom and in spirit. From spine-snapping power to reputations built on fear, these are 10 of the most dangerous motorcycles ever built, and they're collapsing fast. Harley-Davidson. The name once rumbled through the highways of America with the force of a national anthem. Harley-Davidson wasn't a company, it was a cause, a chrome-plated declaration of grit and freedom. For decades, it roared alongside the blue-collar dream, selling not only motorcycles, but the promise of brotherhood, independence, and a distinctly American swagger that couldn't be faked. But those echoes are growing faint. The shine is still there, but the soul has started to rust. In recent years, machines that originally stood for grit and accessibility have shifted toward an entirely different tier. Entry-level motorcycles, previously tailored for riders chasing the thrill of open air and stripped-down machinery, now carry sticker prices exceeding $13,000 before factoring in dealer costs or add-ons, tack-on shipping, dealer premiums, and accessory packages. And you're staring down a $17,000 reality for what used to be a blue jeans machine. At the upper end, touring models have breached the $40,000 threshold, drifting into luxury pricing, while clinging to a heritage forged in working-class rebellion. It's no longer about access to the open road. It's about access to a certain tax bracket. Beneath the badge, the story doesn't improve. While rivals march forward with liquid-cooled engines, advanced ride assists, and digital interfaces, Harley clings to its air-cooled Milwaukee 8, a power plant long past its prime. Instrument clusters remain analog and familiar, but in a way that signals reluctance, not reverence. What once brought riders together now risks pushing new generations away. The company's core audience is aging, and with each passing year, the next wave of motorcyclists finds fewer reasons to buy into a lifestyle that seems more costume than calling. Meanwhile, the competition hasn't been idle. Indian and Yamaha offer bikes with sharper lines, better tech, and better content. Honda leans hard into innovation, pairing performance with practicality. On the used market, a near-decade-old Road Glide still commands $15,000 and delivers nearly the same ride as today's model, making it harder to justify buying new. Harley's attempt at reinvention, the Livewire, sputtered on arrival. Though the Revolution Max engine brought hope, its promise was marooned, introduced in isolation rather than transformation. The problem isn't design or dollars alone, it's erosion from within. When a brand becomes so married to its own mythology that it forgets how to speak to the future, it drifts into parody. Harley-Davidson isn't faltering because it lost its audience. It's faltering because it mistook nostalgia for relevance and watched the road disappear behind it. Indian Motorcycles. How does a legendary name rise from the ashes only to start dimming its own flame? That's the strange tale of Indian Motorcycles, a company that thundered back into the market with the promise of legacy and muscle, but now finds itself hesitating at the edge of an identity crisis. Reborn under the watchful eye and deep investment of Polaris Industries, Indian returned not as a shadow of its former self, but as a refined powerhouse. Its machines carried the weight of heritage and the hunger of modern engineering. For a fleeting period, Indian wasn't simply back on the map, it was threatening to redraw it entirely. Their cruisers roared with a distinctive blend of old-world elegance and new-age aggression. Riders were drawn to more than the engines. They were drawn to the symbolism stitched into the brand's DNA, the bold lines, the rumbling torque, and above all, the signature multicolored headdress logo that had adorned tanks for generations. It all pointed to something deeper than machinery. To many, that emblem wasn't decoration. It was a lifeline to American motorcycling's golden roots. But then in February 2023, something shifted. Behind closed doors, Indian issued a memo. The iconic emblem would be retired, replaced with a pared-down monochromatic version intended to align with corporate rebranding goals and cultural sensitivity. Whatever the intention, the result landed with a thud. Forums ignited. Loyalists voiced their dismay. For them, it wasn't about logos or paint. It was about trust, lineage, and meaning. Without the symbol, Indian appeared unsure of its own story. This decision came at a particularly delicate time. Indian had been gaining traction with a new generation of riders, those drawn to stripped-down models like the Scout Bobber and the FTR, bikes that broke from chrome-heavy tradition and leaned into urban boldness. But that younger audience also comes with keen eyes for authenticity. The logo shift, whether fair or not, signaled hesitation rather than vision. And hesitation in this business is a costly thing. Unlike its larger rivals, Indian's dealer network remains narrow. It doesn't have the reach of Honda. You're the built-in loyalty of Harley, which means its brand identity carries heavier weight. It's not just decoration, it's survival. The moment the foundation cracked, questions began to surface. Dealers scrambled to control the narrative. Customers grew wary. The bikes themselves still finely engineered, but engineering alone can't sell soul. And in the motorcycle world, soul is currency. Indian now stands at a narrowing fork in the road. The next move matters more than ever, because in this line of work, the moment self-doubt creeps into the image projected to the public, riders begin scanning the horizon for something more certain. Moto Guzzi isn't crashing, it's drifting downward in plain sight. Like a tired swan circling a lake it can no longer leave. Formerly regarded as a showcase of Italian craftsmanship and personality, Moto Guzzi now drifts between legacy and uncertainty, with each passing year adding to the weight of stagnation. Where dealers once welcomed eager visitors, display floors now dim under fluorescent lights with little foot traffic. Components arrive late. Retailers quietly disappear from directories, fading without notice. This decline doesn't shout, it whispers, and the industry is listening but not intervening. Founded in 1921 and still producing motorcycles from its original factory on the banks of Lake Como, Moto Guzzi carries a lineage that most brands would envy. Over the decades, its motorcycles embodied something rare, a blend of industrial poetry and mechanical eccentricity that made them instantly recognizable. The transverse V-twin engine, shaft-driven precision, and unmistakable silhouettes gave Guzzi a presence on the road that turned heads and stirred hearts. Riders didn't adopt these bikes for performance alone. They embraced them for their personality, their flaws, their voice. But admiration alone cannot anchor a brand in a market chasing speed, tech, and convenience. Today, the numbers tell a difficult truth. Fewer than 10,000 units roll off the line annually. In many regions, the name Moto Guzzi draws a nod of nostalgia rather than a current offering. The air-cooled engines, particularly the 90-degree V-twin, hark back to the 1970s and remained largely unchanged while the rest of the industry moved forward. Digital displays, rider modes, cornering ABS, these weren't early innovations for Guzzi. They arrived late, cautiously, or not at all. And when the V100 Mandello finally brought liquid cooling and modern tech into the stable, it stood nearly alone, an isolated attempt in a field of overdue upgrades. Under the umbrella of the Piaggio Group, Guzzi's place is often overshadowed. Vespa continues to sell in volume. Aprilia racks up victories on the track. Guzzi waits its turn. The Mandello factory remains a symbol of pride, But pride doesn't pay for automation, and nostalgia doesn't shorten production delays. Writers who love the brand speak of torque with character and engineering with soul, and those qualities matter until the brand they defend stops defending itself. Moto Guzzi is not yet gone, but the current is pulling. The dealer network thins, the rider base ages, and what endures today is a label that once climbed high, but now coasts downward, its trajectory growing more horizontal as time presses forward. When the curtain finally falls, it won't be with fanfare. It'll disappear in that slow, aching way the past always does. Norton Motorcycles scandal doesn't always arrive with sirens. Sometimes it creeps in wearing a familiar badge. Norton, a name once engraved into the framework of British motorcycling, now bears the imprint of transgressions too deep for redemption. This isn't a tale. The year was 2008, when Stuart Garner took control of Norton, announcing plans that echoed with promises of revival and reverence. He spoke of resurrecting icons, of blending heritage with innovation. Factories saw new life, catalogs filled with seductive renderings of machines not yet built. Deposits poured in, headlines were generous, but behind the showroom lights, reality told a darker tale. Underneath the marketing gloss, the foundation was riddled with deceit. What followed in the years ahead unfolded not as misfortune, but as calculated collapse. By 2020, the mask fell. The company disintegrated amid revelations of misused pensions, unfulfilled orders, and motorcycles that, when delivered, sometimes couldn't pass basic inspection. Customers were left empty-handed, clutching paperwork in place of bikes. Employees showed up to shuttered gates. A title once tied to pride and prestige now surfaces most often in warnings, lawsuits, and tales of disillusionment. Then came the rescue, at least on paper. Indian powerhouse TVS Motor Company stepped in, purchasing what remained of Norton for $20 million. With fresh investment, a new facility, and bold promises, they set out to cleanse the brand's reputation and chart a different course. A flagship superbike, the V4 SV, was unveiled as the crown jewel of this rebooted identity. Yet delays mounted. Other promised models sat in limbo, and the ghosts of the past refused to stay buried. Many of the early customers who paid under Garner's tenure are still waiting. Some for refunds, others for motorcycles that never arrived. Outside of the UK, the brand remains largely absent. Dealerships are scarce. Parts, when needed, often require patience. And despite all the branding and backstory, Norton today walks a tightrope between hope and hesitance. Rebuilding trust isn't an engineering task. It's a moral one. The scars left by betrayal don't fade easily. No matter how finely milled the new aluminum or how beautifully tuned the new engine, Norton may yet rise, but its redemption depends not on nostalgia nor press events, but on whether it can finally deliver consistently, honestly, and without shadows. Because for every loyalist still cheering from the sidelines, far more have quietly turned away, tired of waiting for a legend to mean something again. Mitsubishi. What happens when a brand doesn't fall? It simply vanishes into the background. No final announcement, no closing ceremony, no last gasp of relevance. That's the path Mitsubishi took in the world of motorcycles. Not with a crash, but with a shrug. And that makes its disappearance all the more haunting. Decades ago, amid Japan's rapid industrial rise, Mitsubishi didn't just stamp its logo on cars, it also shaped the two-wheeled future. The company introduced its scooters and small motorcycles under names like Silver Pigeon, stepping confidently onto a battleground already crowded with Honda's ambition, Yamaha's racing pedigree, and Suzuki's innovation. Mitsubishi had the tools, powerful factories, efficient distribution, and a post-war audience eager for affordable, reliable transportation. In the early years, their machines were sturdy and accessible, born from engineering rather than marketing hype. For a while, the brand held its ground, but then came a change in wind direction. As the motorcycle wars intensified in the 1970s, Mitsubishi began redirecting its attention. Production dwindled. Licensing agreements took precedence. Eventually, the company abandoned the space altogether. By the 1980s, Mitsubishi's presence in the motorcycle world had all but dissolved, leaving behind no ceremony, only silence. In more recent times, whispers of a comeback have stirred. Reports surfaced of electric prototypes, speculative patents, and development notes tucked deep within their EV projects. Enthusiasts speculated Mitsubishi could channel its automotive expertise into a new generation of electric motorcycles. But speculation without follow-through amounts to vapor. As of today, those plans remain unrealized, and the company has offered no indication it intends to return to the saddle. What's left is scattered. A few antique scooters in private collections, an archived photograph or two, maybe an oil-stained repair manual in someone's workshop drawer. Mitsubishi's story isn't one of flameout or disgrace. It's a slow fade to irrelevance. The brand didn't fight to stay in the game. It simply chose not to show up. Now, as the company faces mounting challenges in the car market, the motorcycle division is little more than a name buried under decades of restructuring and lost focus. Mitsubishi, once positioned to compete alongside Japan's motorcycle powerhouses, now barely registers, a passing reference rather than a contender. Enjoy this wild ride. Let us know by giving it a like and subscribing. Your support keeps the engine running. KTM. When a company built its reputation on speed, precision, and control, watching it skid off course in broad daylight is more than troubling. It's a spectacle. That's where KTM finds itself today. Not in a slump, but in a freefall. Formerly hailed as a force in European off-road performance, KTM now finds itself ensnared in the harsh mechanics of financial rescue, with every turn of the wheel straining under pressure. By late 2024, the headlines turned grim. Pirer Mobility AG, KTM's parent company, triggered self-administration proceedings in Austria, a last-ditch mechanism to reorganize under legal supervision. It's the financial equivalent of flatlining on the track. Their stock value collapsed, nosediving over 80% within a single year. Behind the plunge was a mix of global miscalculations, bottlenecked supply chains, unchecked production, rising costs, and a bloated strategy aimed at market saturation rather than measured growth. Activity inside their assembly facilities gradually waned, shifting from high-paced output to a landscape marked by still machinery and muted floors. Motorcycle production, previously clocking over 1,000 units daily, stalled. Dozens of upcoming models, previously unveiled as bold steps toward expansion, were withdrawn from the roadmap without a clear return date. The cost-cutting came swiftly and harshly. More than 300 employees across Europe, including engineers and logistics veterans, were shown the door. KTM, previously praised for challenging conventions, found itself abruptly constrained by the very limits it once tried to surpass. The root of the crisis lies in a gamble that spiraled out of control. KTM had planned to split its focus: premium machines for developed markets, smaller entry-level bikes for rising economies. But thin profit margins on those low-cost models turned into liabilities when inflation surged and consumer confidence dropped. High interest rates dulled spending power, and the shelves began to overflow with unsold inventory. Compounding the issue, KTM had lost a key manufacturing ally. In 2021, Bajaj Auto, its longtime Indian partner divested from the company, severing a supply chain lifeline. Without Bajaj's volume production and cost advantages, KTM was left navigating a high-cost system with fewer tools in hand. Dealerships soon reported stagnant sales, bikes gathering dust, and customers wary of backlogs. Victories on the track, previously hailed as KTM's shining asset, provided no shelter when financial pressure mounted. Championship titles don't settle operating costs. As debtors close in, the company long celebrated for dominating off-road terrain now wrestles with the harder task of forging a sustainable path forward. Boss Hoss V8. What kind of machine straps a muscle car engine to two wheels and dares you to tame it on open pavement? Enter the Boss Hoss V8, a roaring steel-bodied spectacle that made no compromises and offered no apologies. Emerging in the early 1990s, this wasn't engineered for balance or refinement. It was built for bravado. With a heart yanked straight from Chevrolet's small block V8 arsenal, the Boss Hoss boasted displacement figures that bordered on lunacy. 5,700 centimeters of liquid-cooled fury, cranking out anywhere between 350 and 450 horsepower, depending on the tune. That level of output rivals full-size pickups and eclipses the entire power band of conventional motorcycles. And yet, it wasn't only the raw power that raised eyebrows, it was the scale. Wet weight hovered near 1,100 pounds, nearly twice that of a modern sport bike. Riding this colossus required the body strength of a wrestler and the reflexes of a fighter pilot. Straight-line acceleration felt more drag strip than highway. Top speeds nudged 140 miles per hour. But the real challenge came after the rush. Slowing a machine of that heft wasn't simply about braking. It was about strategy. Dual front rotors and a beefy rear disc offered resistance. But gravity never made it easy. Turning was equally taxing. With a stretched wheelbase and bulk that spanned nearly the width of a compact car, navigating corners felt closer to negotiating with physics than flowing with the road. Riders had to think several turns ahead or risk finding themselves locked in a line they couldn't escape. Add to that a fuel economy averaging a meager 20 mpg, and you had a machine that devoured gasoline as greedily as it devoured nerves. Frequent stops weren't optional, they were survival. And yet, against all logic, the Boss Hoss earned a place in motorcycling lore. Devotees embraced its absurdity, the thunder from its exhaust, the unapologetic bulk, and the wild audacity of its existence offered a type of thrill no other bike could replicate. This wasn't a ride, it was a declaration. But beneath the spectacle lies the truth. The Boss Hoss V8 wasn't dangerous because it failed. It was dangerous because it succeeded too well at being outrageous. Kawasaki H1 Mach III 500. Few machines have ever hit the pavement with such reckless ambition. In 1969, the Kawasaki H1 Mach III 500 arrived as a bolt of defiance aimed directly at its rivals. This wasn't a refinement of past formulas. It was a leap toward the edge, designed to dominate the drag strip and stun the street. The H1 brought with it an aggressive two-stroke 499 cubic centimeter triple engine that produced an eye-widening 60 horsepower. Lightweight at just 384 pounds dry, the machine offered a power-to-weight ratio that bordered on volatile. Acceleration came fast and brutal. 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds placed the H1 among the quickest production motorcycles of its era. But it wasn't the top speed, well above 115 miles per hour, that unsettled riders. It was the explosive delivery. Torque surged suddenly, hammering the rear wheel with 37 pound-feet of force, arriving high in the rev range and without grace. A throttle didn't coax the bike forward. It launched it. The front wheel reared up with little provocation. Grip came and went. depending on the rider's nerve and the road beneath. Those who dared twist the throttle found themselves negotiating with physics rather than riding in control. Unfortunately, the rest of the bike struggled to keep pace with its ferocity. The narrow steel frame flexed under duress, and the suspension, primitive by any measure, struggled to manage the load in corners or under braking. Ground clearance was tight, making lean angles risky. The brakes, drums front and rear, were wholly unprepared to handle a machine with such velocity. Stopping distances stretched alarmingly long, especially under stress. Riders needed foresight, open space, and sometimes a bit of providence to bring the H1 to a safe halt. Fuel economy hovered around 26 mpg, but few cared. Comfort wasn't part of the design brief. Riders bought into speed, and what they received was barely restrained chaos. As stories circulated, riders thrown from their seats, tag slappers at speed, rear tires breaking loose mid-corner. The H1 earned a reputation for being unpredictable and unforgiving. For those who mastered its quirks, it offered unmatched thrills, but for many, it was a ticket to danger. Dressed in Kawasaki green, it stood at the crossroads of power and instability. A machine too fast for its own foundation. Built in a time when caution trailed far behind horsepower. In your opinion, which motorcycle brand deserves a second chance before it disappears for good? Suzuki GSX-R1100. Can a machine built for glory become a legend through fear alone? The Suzuki GSX-R1100 didn't tiptoe into the spotlight. It exploded onto the scene with brute force and no apologies. When it first appeared in the late 1980s, the motorcycle world was changing fast, with manufacturers chasing speed, power, and bragging rights at any cost. The GSX-R1100 wasn't subtle about its mission. It was Suzuki's answer to the horsepower arms race, a street-legal missile dressed in racing leathers. At the heart of this behemoth was a 1,136-centimeter oil and air-cooled inline four-cylinder engine, roaring out an astonishing 145 horsepower. That number turned heads in its day and still raises eyebrows today. But what truly set the GSX-R1100 apart wasn't its brute strength. It was the unapologetic way it delivered that power. It didn't smooth things out or hold your hand. At full throttle, this monster could flirt with top speeds nearing 175 miles per hour. But that's where the fun ended for many. The frame, while adequate on paper, often struggled to contain the chaos. Built in a pre-electronic age, the GSX-R1100 lacked traction control, ride modes, or ABS. Every twitch of the throttle, every shift of weight, every misjudged curve, it was all up to the rider. Stability was a known issue at high speeds. The front end would begin to dance under stress, particularly over uneven pavement, and gusty winds could throw the whole machine off balance without warning. The brakes, dual front discs, and a single rear were powerful for their time, but lacked the finesse and feet. Long-distance rides became endurance trials. But to the GSX-R1100's faithful, that was the price of admission. Fuel economy, hovering near 33 mpg, was almost irrelevant. Nobody climbed aboard this bike to save gas. They came chasing adrenaline. Over the years, the GSX-R1100 has become a benchmark, not just for its raw performance, but for the cautionary tales it inspired. It taught riders respect, sometimes the hard way. It marked a period when motorcycle engineering prioritized output over forgiveness, and when survival depended more on rider skill than built-in safety. That legacy remains etched in the minds of those who dared to ride it. And for many, the GSX-R1100 didn't earn its legendary status from race wins or glossy ads. It earned it from the scars, the stories, and the thrill of barely holding on. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything. Don't forget to subscribe and share your remembers with someone who would love to learn more about this fascinating era. As always, thank you so much for watching.